everyone, and welcome back to the Joy-Filled Universe podcast. I am your host, Lisa Ryan, and today we are going to talk about something that will definitely require some self-awareness as we discuss an experience that we have all probably had, but aren't always sure how to alchemize. And this experience is what happens when we find ourselves around a person who is more talented, skilled, or educated than we are in areas that we want to grow. So yeah, those people who are more polished, more confident, skilled, well-read, and just more experienced than us. Basically, those people who have strengths in areas where we are not as solid, but we want to be. Areas where we want to grow more. Areas where we know we could use more focus, but just haven't had the opportunity. And if we are being truly honest with ourselves, when we are in positions like this, we can definitely feel intimidated. Now, let me just try to normalize this for a moment. When we step into a room where someone just shines in areas that we are still developing, it can trigger us. I know at least it triggers me for sure. And we can find ourselves quickly spiraling into feelings of comparison and doubt. And then our mind starts to panic a little bit because it wants to protect us, right? So that little voice inside of us starts to sneak in and say things like, what am I doing here? Am I even good enough to be here? And maybe this is just like a total mistake. And if we're not careful, those feelings of comparison can then spiral into something even heavier, like jealousy, envy, and scarcity, which are those low vibrational, fear-based emotions that don't just feel bad, they actually block our growth, because instead of feeling encouraged and energized, we start thinking thoughts that shrink us and make us feel small. And then the next thing that happens is, instead of learning, we start judging. Instead of leaning in, we start choosing to pull away. And if we don't have some level of awareness around the negative feelings that might be bubbling up for us, we can risk missing out on something that is truly a gift in life, because there is absolutely another way to experience these types of moments and to benefit greatly from them as well. And that alternative choice, well, it is to decide to see these types of people who excel in areas where we want to grow and develop, to see these people as our worthy rivals, which is a term that I recently learned, and I think it is just so great, which is why I'm doing this podcast, by the way. It is so great because it's actually a concept that Simon Sinek introduced in his book titled The Infinite Game, which I recently finished reading, and I highly recommend it. It's not just about worthy rivals. This is literally just a chapter in the book. It's more about having like an infinite mindset versus a finite one. It's a really great book, so if you have the time, please check it out. Okay, so the term worthy rivals, right? Keep that in mind. I want to tell you a story about how I discovered how valuable worthy rivals can truly be as we grow in our lives. And this discovery was long before I even knew this term. However, I believe it fits the definition, at least how I interpret it. So many years ago, in my 20s, I lived in North Carolina, and I was a project engineer for a rather large development and construction company. And I was still fairly new to the wonderful world of work. And because of this very green and ignorant perspective, I felt like I knew everything up until one day this intern from Germany showed up and joined the team. And this intern's name was Niels, but I always pronounced his name as Niles. And he never once ever corrected me. So I went for a very long time without knowing the correct pronunciation of his name. In fact, I was the one that was thinking that it was everybody else that was saying it wrong, never knowing that it was me. Anywho, this guy was super smart and talented in areas where I was way less skilled, and that bothered me a lot straight from the get-go. Yet rather than seeing this intern as a benefit to be around, I purposely stayed far away from him to avoid interacting with him at all costs, which ultimately led to occasional arguments. We rarely agreed on things, and it really started to impact the vibe of the team. And then one day, this older gentleman on the project team, he pulled me aside, and I remember this guy so vividly. He was a Southern gentleman with a super charming accent, and when he pulled me aside, he said, "Why do you always give Niels such a hard time?" And I answered something like, "He's the one who gives me a hard time. And no one ever asked me if I wanted an intern following me around. I just got stuck with him." To which this gentleman named Billy said back to me, "No one asked you because it was Niels that requested to be paired with you because he had heard about how talented you were. And he said he thought he could learn a great deal if he could work alongside of you." And I will never forget that day. I felt awful after hearing that because I had been so close-minded, so on guard because I was afraid of not being the smartest one in the room. I was afraid of not having all of the answers. And I was especially afraid of admitting where I had weaknesses because I didn't want anyone to think I wasn't good enough. However, when I learned how Niels felt, that changed not just our working relationship, but it changed my life. So I finished up my conversation with Billy, and I was just so grateful for that chat. So as soon as we were done, I immediately went to see Niels, and I sat down with him, which was very strange for him because I had done nothing like that up until this point. And then it got even stranger for him when I apologized for being so prickly in our exchanges. And then I chose to tell him why I behaved the way I did. I pointed out the areas where he was strong and I was weak. And I also told him that I would love it if we could work together. And from that day through the duration of the project, we learned so much from each other. And coupled with the knowledge and the growth, we also became really great friends. We challenged each other. We pushed each other to think differently. We competed with one another in really healthy ways. We allowed and celebrated each other when we excelled, even in front of the big bosses. And through that celebration, we remained curious and we watched each other excel in our respective talented areas. And we also watched one another grow in areas where we wanted to get better. That experience for me turned out to be such an incredible wisdom moment. And I felt like it was this giant gift because I learned it so early on in my life. I learned to be confident in what I know. I learned to be confident and aware of what I don't know, or where I'm less skilled, I should say. And I learned to be aware when a worthy rival crosses my path, because it's this worthy rival who ultimately acts as a catalyst for my never-ending expansion in life. And I will say, I have carried this lesson forward in so many areas of my world, whether it's my professional life, my friendships, my family, my hobby groups, my coaching, my podcasting, my running, just countless other areas. And so with all of that being said, my interpretation of a worthy rival is someone who reveals possibilities and opportunities for us to push ourselves out of our comfort zone and to grow. Certainly not someone who makes us feel small or marginalized or insignificant, but someone who stretches our vision of who we can become. And what's really awesome is that in some circumstances, when a worthy rival is stretching us, we are stretching them too, because we have talents that they want to grow within themselves. And I'm here to tell you, when that happens, it's truly incredible. I believe that the universe puts the right people in our paths for many reasons, and worthy rivals are definitely an opportunity that we are gifted from the universe. And that feels like such a really refreshing perspective, doesn't it? Doesn't it just feel so much better, and it lands so much differently when seeing someone else? And I also want to say that something that Simon Sinek captured in his book is he said that we don't need to admire everything about our worthy rival. We don't even have to like them very much. And I really appreciate that, because not every worthy rival becomes our friend. In fact, he said that we choose someone to be our worthy rival because something about them reveals to us where we want to grow, and their very existence pushes us to improve. And we have spoken about comparing ourselves with others to some degree, and in my opinion, not enough. But that is a podcast for another day. Yet, when we fall into comparing ourselves to others, it's usually because they have some level of skill or knowledge or lifestyle or talent or something that we would like to achieve. However, if we don't make them our worthy rival, we will find ourselves spending a whole lot of energy just watching them, feeling bad for ourselves, judging what they're doing, tracking them on social media, and likely spending a ton of time feeling grumpy and low vibe. And when we are in this space, so much time will escape us due to just having negative thoughts where we could have been learning from them while focusing on ourselves getting better. And like I said, it's truly magical when two people can establish one another as worthy rivals. And the bonus is if it evolves into a true friendship. Even though Simon had said, we don't have to be friends. We don't even have to really like them. Think about it. Athletes choose worthy rivals to elevate their game, right? Think about the Olympics. How intense and exciting is it when we see two rivals going up against each other in an event? However, knowing what we know now, I'm going to guess that these athletes aren't rivals. They're probably worthy rivals because they likely knew one another as their most fierce competition. So rather than stewing over how much they loathed them, they likely watched tons of videos of them at various competitions to learn about where their opponent is strong. And then they likely built that into their training so that they would get stronger and expand their already elite athletic ability. What else? Oh, businesses. Businesses study worthy rivals and stay competitive and innovative, right? Think about technology, AI tools for ones. They're all continuously upping their game. In Simon Sinek's book, he used the example of Apple computers and Microsoft. He also used the automotive industry too, which if you think about it, yeah, they're totally using one another as worthy rivals. And so there are just so many areas where people, businesses, industry use worthy rivals as a method of continuous growth. Or as Simon had said in his book, they use their worthy rivals to stay in the game. And I'm hoping that as many of you hear me speak, that you are noticing that this isn't really a rare concept. It's a natural part of growth. And I think that one of the things that I love most about this concept is that a worthy rival doesn't have to look like we do. They don't have to think like we do either. And they certainly don't have to come from the same background or even share the same values. And we don't even need to go out searching for them either, because a rival often reveals themselves to us. And they really become our worthy rival when we are aware of ourselves, along with being aware of how they make us feel. So the next time we notice that little internal reaction that we have, whether it be a feeling of comparison, jealousy, envy, or even just a little bit of, look at this new person over here. Who the heck do they think they are? Right? If you feel that, instead of pushing that feeling away or judging ourselves for it, or even choosing to avoid that person altogether, what if we just get curious with ourselves and take a moment to go inward and ask ourselves, what is it about this person that's activating something in me? Because more often than not, they're not triggering us by accident. They're revealing something to us. They're reflecting back an area where we want to grow, a skill that we want to sharpen, or a version of ourselves that we haven't fully stepped into yet. And when we do that, it is then that we have not only shined a light on some focus areas where we want to grow, but we have also established for ourselves a worthy rival. And rather than seeing them through a lens of jealousy or spending our energy comparing ourselves and stressing over their progress, we will see them through a lens of encouragement and accountability. And they will become someone who expands what we believe is possible for ourselves. Wow. That's so exciting. And I also want to highlight something here too. And I know that I have said this before. However, I love to keep reminding all of us as often as I can. And it is this. It is more than okay to acknowledge that someone is better than us in a certain area. In fact, it's a gift that we give to ourselves, because when we can genuinely celebrate someone else's strengths, we're not diminishing our own, nor are we canceling out the opportunity for us to achieve greatness. And by celebrating and recognizing others and allowing their skills or talents to be something that sparks focus and growth within us, we are elevating the energy of the space that we are in. We are choosing an abundant mindset over one of scarcity and fear. Just because someone else is thriving, just because someone else has built wealth, confidence, mastery, or measurable impact in their domain, that doesn't take opportunities away from any of us. If anything, it proves what is possible for us. And when we celebrate that, when we honor it, we align ourselves with it. We raise our standards, raise our energy through belief, and we position ourselves to receive abundance that is uniquely aligned to us and our highest good. And well, I love that. And you know what? I'm going to end here. I think that is a wrap for this week. So perhaps after today's episode, do some thinking. Who is your current worthy rival? Do you have one? Or better yet, is there someone that you currently see as your rival, yet after what we have learned today, could they possibly be your worthy rival? And if so, maybe approach them and let them know what you appreciate about them, because it's energy like that that will open doors, build connections. It will transform what once felt intimidating into inspiring. And more importantly, it keeps us in our own power, and it will keep us being our own unique and abundant success story. I personally believe that everything, every day happens for us, and that includes the people that we meet. And what's fun is when I come across someone who randomly gets under my skin, I immediately get curious and I wonder, what area of me is about to endure a growth spurt? And that feels really happy because we don't attract abundance by tearing other people down in our minds. We live abundant lives when we elevate our perspective and we see people through a lens of joy. And speaking of joy, I hope that you all enjoyed this episode, and I hope it was helpful for you today. And if it was, please help me out and take just a few seconds and rate, follow, write a review, or even share this episode with a friend. All of this helps me out, and I am so thankful for your support. And I also want to add too that I am on Instagram. I'm at Joy-Filled Universe, and although I haven't been paying much attention to my Instagram page, I'm getting back on it. I am going to make this a priority. It is a priority for this year, so expect more posts. And join me and follow me there too. Anyway, all that to say, I had a blast this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I also want to say that I am your host, Lisa Ryan, and this is the Joy-Filled Universe podcast, where we explore all the tools and tricks that are going to make your universe even more joyful than it already is. And I will see you next week. Bye.